Welcome to Corbin's Coasters and More, and thanks for watching this installment of Coaster Rankings. I recently went to Cedar Point for the first time in a while, and these are all of the coasters except for those that I'm too tall to be allowed to ride, from worst to best. I'll let you know when we get to the orange, yellow, and green lines. That's how I sort my coasters. So the first few are under the red line. Basically, no need to ever ride them again unless you're like me and a coaster nerd and need to re-ride just to see if my ranking is right. If they're that bad, usually it is right. Anyway, let's start. Number 16, Iron Dragon. An aero-suspended coaster. It's basically a kiddie coaster with a cool dive into a body of water. Possibly the most boring layout on any coaster anywhere. Number 15 is Cedar Creek Mine Train. Another kiddie/family coaster without a great layout. I actually enjoy good mine trains. This one just kinda sucks. Number 14, Corkscrew. This may be the roughest steel coaster I've ever been on and is not for little kids. So CP, can we just tear this one down? I know the corkscrews on the pathway are iconic, but it's short, takes forever to load, and is just no longer a fun ride. Number 13 is a ride that used to be much better with stand-up trains when it was called Mantis. Now it's Rougarou and it's a B&M sit-down. I never understood the people that bash stand-ups. As a guy, it doesn't hurt your balls as long as you squat down slightly while getting on. I love the unique feeling stand-ups give when you're facing the ground coming down from a loop. Now, it's a ride that lacks intensity and it has one of the worst B&M rattles I've ever felt with one of the worst layouts. Number 12 is the first one above the red line and in my orange section. Basically, these are worth riding if you have time, but don't get me excited about going to the park. Number 12 is Pipe Scream. This one has some controversy as to whether it's even considered a coaster, as it's not on RCDB, but it is listed on Cedar Point's own website as a coaster, and I'm my own tiebreaker. I consider it a powered coaster rather than a flat ride, as there are several times throughout the ride where you're free falling through the course once you build speed. To me, it's a steel family coaster with a powered launch, so it counts, but it's nothing special. Decent airtime, though. Number 11, Blue Streak. This Ace Landmark coaster built in 1964 is now over 50 years old, and it's better than I remembered it being. You get plenty of solid pops of airtime, all while feeling the coaster might break out from under you. Pretty fun. On a side note, I just mentioned that Blue Streak is pretty fun, and there's still 10 to go. Number 10 is the only near clone at Cedar Point. Wicked Twister is the tallest of its type, though. This is somehow the worst of CP's amazing Intamin lineup, but has some powerful launches, float time, and has the perfect location right on the beach. Rumor has it that this might not be here much longer, though. This plot, combined with the unused pavilion area nearby, would make a good spot for a mid-sized coaster in a park that's fairly full. Number 9 might upset some, and I just moved this one up quite a bit after my most recent trip. Magnum XL200, the original hypercoaster, is a lot of fun, and it has some of the best airtime on any coaster. To me, it actually rides more like a wooden coaster than an old steel one, and I think it is possibly one of the most overrated coasters in history. Great ejector airtime machine, but no longer is it a great ride. Can we RMC a steel coaster? Because I'd love to see that happen with this ride. Number 8 is Valravn. This year, for whatever reason, Valravn has the longest lines in the park consistently. Not sure if it's bad ops or what. Unfortunately for me, I waited 90 minutes in line for it to break down for an extended delay, so I haven't ridden in a few years. Which doesn't make me mad because one of my home parks has SheiKra, which is a much longer, better dive coaster than Valravn. If you've never been on a dive coaster, then yeah, you need to ride this one. And by no means am I saying it's terrible, but it's not worth waiting over an hour for, which seems to always be the case right now. Number 7 is nearly as old as I am. Built in 1994, Raptor still rides impressively smooth and whips through its inversions. The pacing isn't perfect, but I like that it's a little more drawn out than the Batman clones. It makes the ride more re-rideable, and there's not much headbanging at all if you're paying attention. On a side note, I've always thought it to be weird that the ride is actually themed after the birds called raptors, not the dinosaur. The green color scheme makes me think of dinosaurs. Anyway, number 6 is finally above my yellow line. These are rides that I really want to ride every time I go to the park, but that I don't have to go to the park for. 6 is Gatekeeper, the newest ground-up coaster at Cedar Point. I've been on most of the American B&M wing coasters, and this one is my favorite. I think it's the smoothest coaster I've ever ridden, and it has tons of inversions and some great near misses with the entrance plaza that was rebuilt to accommodate the ride. Unfortunately, because it's so smooth and graceful, it's largely forceless and gives minimal airtime, but still fun. Number 5 moved up over 40 spots in my overall coaster list this visit, Gemini. It's an old school aero hybrid coaster and to me feels like what an RMC from 1978 would feel like today. It runs impressively smooth for its age and they always race the trains. The layout isn't perfect, but you do get tons of airtime and it's pretty fast and it's a long ride. I actually rerode this several times when I was at the park because not only is it tons of fun, but the wait time pretty much never gets up over 15 minutes. Now, all of the rest are Green Line coasters, ones that if I missed out on, I might cry. Okay, that won't happen, but I might complain the whole way home if I have to miss any of them for some reason, except if it's at a home park. These are all in my top 20 overall, and the top 3 Cedar Point coasters are all in my top 10. Here we go. Number 4, Top Thrill Dragster. Sure, it's less than 20 seconds, but it's one of the most exhilarating experiences anywhere. It's so intense that it almost feels like an upcharge attraction. Not to give them any ideas. It's the tallest, fastest ride in the park, and you feel every bit of the 120 miles per hour launch. POVs do not do it justice. Number 3 is another Intamin, Maverick. I love this ride. I love that even though it's one of the least tall first drops in the park, it's the most intense drop because of how quickly you get thrown into that over vertical hill. The ride is actually themed, which adds to its value. The transitions are like no other and really whip you while somehow being smooth at the same time. The inversions are wild, and of course the second launch is pretty amazing. Truly one of the best coasters in the world, but not better than number 2, Millennium Force. Another underrated ride, even though it was overrated for the longest time. This is another ride that POVs don't really do much for. The feeling of plunging 300 feet down looking like you're going to plunge into the lake at 90 plus miles an hour. The 20 or so seconds of airtime, the overbanked hills, all with only a lap bar? I think it's understated how much this coaster gives you, especially how long it is. I appreciate it even more after riding Orion the next day, and Millennium Force blows it out of the water. And of course, everyone knows then that number 1 is Steel Vengeance. I honestly tried hard to see flaws in this ride and to not be a sheep and make it my overall number 1, but it really is the best coaster I've ridden. It does nothing wrong and everything right, with several unique elements even for RMC. It's so cool that you can be in the front row and still not know what's coming, and that every time you think the ride is almost over, it's just not. It's even more incredible that Mean Streak, the coaster it was converted from, is literally last on my coaster rankings. Out of 200 coasters, it literally went from worst to best with RMC treatment. Cedar Point really is the best coaster lineup, and it's not close. No other park even has 3 coasters in my top 20, and Cedar Point has 4 of them. That's my list. If you want to argue any of the rankings, feel free to do so. These are my opinions, and yours can be different. That being said, be sure to subscribe and click the bell so that you know when I post another Coaster Rankings episode. There will definitely be episodes coming up for Kings Island, Universal, and Busch Gardens. Also, share this with any coaster friends you may have or on your Facebook page for everyone to see. Make some new coaster fanatics. Be sure to keep an eye out for my Cedar Point tips and tricks videos as well. But for now, thanks for watching Corbin's Coasters and More.